Welcome back to another Daily Watch. And today we want to talk about the rise of idolatry. We're seeing a lot of idolatry on the rise lately. And I first saw it this last week. The largest statue to Lord Ram was erected in this particular hemisphere. 51 foot up there in Canada. This is in Mississauga. So this is the Hindu god, which I thought was really funny because this is the Hindu god of truth, virtue, and manliness. Now, mind you, if you're in the state of Canada and maybe you're a conservative and you talk about manliness, you will literally get sent to retraining camp, if not prosecuted for hate speech. Yet they erect a 51-foot tall idol of Lord Ram to worship manliness. Interesting. But I was struck looking around. That's not the only one. There is the third highest statue in the United States is down in Houston. This is Lord Hanuman. This is the monkey god. Yes, they erected a 91-foot statue of the monkey god down in Houston. And I got thinking about all of these tall idol statues, of course, part of the those were the Hindu faith. And I got thinking about these, and I thought about, well, what about the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio? Well, believe it or not, guys, that also is an idol, because we are commanded not to make a likeness on heaven, on earth, or by any other thing. Instead, we are to worship God in truth and in spirit and in truth, really. And we are commanded over and over not to do this. Of course, that statue in Rio was mostly funded by the Catholic front. Of course, Catholicism is highly symbolistic, does involve a lot of idolatry in it as well. But what I wanted to point out is the many commands. It is such a basic thing in Christianity, you would think we don't even have to talk about it, but indeed we do. In the 10 Commandments, Exodus 24 and 5, you shall not make for yourself an idol or like any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers of the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. And we're seeing a lot of idolatry pop up. Of course, Leviticus 26:1 reiterated, you shall not make for yourselves idols, nor shall you set up for yourself an image or a sacred pillar, nor shall you place a figured stone in your land to bow down to it, for I am the Lord your God. Now, I guess one of the differences is that the Lord Ram statue and the Lord Hanuman statue are actually used to worship and to bow down to. And I don't really see a lot of people utilizing the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio as one to bow down to or worship. Although it still crosses a line, it's one I'm just, okay, kind of a neat thing, but I'm not really on board with that one either. But I'll kind of let that one go. A, it's not here in United States. Of course, the one is in Canada, but it's pretty close. B, that one has been there for a longer time. And C, that one is not used for the rituals of worship. Now, that is Old Testament, of course. The problem is that the New Testament reiterates all of this. And of course, there was some debate about what does a person need to do to be saved? Do we have to follow the Mosaic law? So Paul and Barnabas are sent back to the apostles in Jerusalem to ask this very question and to ask about what types of things they have to do. You know, do you have to follow the Mosaic law? Do you have to practice circumcision? Do you have to do all these 10 commandments and all these things? And the summary of their events in Acts 15, 19, and 20. Therefore, it is my judgment, we do not trouble those who are turning to God from among the Gentiles, but that we write them to abstain from things contaminated by idols, from fornication, and from that which is strangled, from blood. And so we have this command to not do anything with the association of idols, idolatry. And so we have to push against this stuff, not just as the Old Testament, but also as a New Testament practice. Now, to be fair, it is not the Christians generally who are worshiping these idols. The problem is the decay in our culture is what's leading to this. We had a culture that like it or not, was based on some degree of Judeo-Christian value. We did not erect statues to monkey gods that are 91 feet tall in Houston or any other places in the United States. This is becoming so because we have so turned away from God in so many ways that it is pervading our culture. Now, there is an element of this that as long as the true worship of Christianity is not hindered, okay, because the Bible does paint a picture of choice. Now, is this man's choice? Is this God's choice? We're not going to get into the Calvinist Arminianistic view. The Bible does paint over and over a degree of choice in some way, shape, or form. So it's important that we recognize that as long as Christianity is not hindered, let the pagans do what the pagans are going to do. The problem is we are to the point these days where Christianity is starting to get hindered. If we erect giant things to engage in Christian worship, I mean, just look at what happened down in Seattle a couple of months, was it a month or two ago? They had a simple Christian festival. They sought all of the proper permits. They were in their little area. It was advertised, and the Antifa mobs literally come and assault them all. And then the city is coming out against the Christians who literally were there singing praise and worship songs. So on this basis, however, of course, the agenda of Antifa is being hoisted upon people, and you cannot even stand up and confidently say, no, I want nothing to do with that. So maybe the idolatry is pervading our culture because we as a church are not standing up. Now, I just started reading a book yesterday that looks to be a very promising book. It is by Erwin Lutzer, and it is called We Will Not Be Silenced. So I'll do a report on that when I'm done. It is a little bit thicker of a book than he usually has, so it'll be a little while before I finish it up here. But it really does talk about these issues that we are allowing such decay into our culture to the point where we cannot confidently practice Christianity as it is commanded of us, and we are forced to adopt or accept things, or at least overlook things, which are counter to Christianity. And that is where we have failed to do our job. And where this comes from is the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is discussing salt and light. And as Christians, we have to look at this because as the salt is the preservative of the culture and the light is the light shining toward God, we must keep this in mind. So for Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. And so salt and light. Salt is a preservative. At this time, this is what was used to preserve your meats, to make sure your food was healthy to eat, and it did give an element of good taste and flavor to things. And so when we're talking about being salt, we are talking about preserving the culture. We're talking about going out and confronting the culture to the point where, yes, there were always weird and gross and kinky things going on, but it was refrained to the darkness. People understood what it was. It wasn't forced out upon us. And as Christians started withdrawing our salt and retreating into our four safe walls and refusing to go out in the world for total fear of offending someone, we have allowed the culture to go wicked and ransom. And then we are now withholding the light, and the light points to God. As a believer does good deeds, gets out into the world and shines the light and says, this is from God, that is what draws people into it. This is one of those things that God uses to work to redeem the hearts of men. And so the problem is that we as a culture now as Christians, we tend to do everything isolated in our churches. We tend to do all of our programs are in the church, not in the community. We don't want to get out there. And so the only thing the community seems to see is the scandals because bad news sells. Like, for example, also this week, there was an Episcopal priest who is gay and married to his husband who's on Grindr talking to underage boys. Okay, that is disgusting, and the people that have discovered this and confirmed it, they need to go right to the police about this stuff. The guy needs to be investigated for such actions, okay? But when that's the thing that people think about Christianity, now is a Episcopal, the church, really Christianity? No, not really. It seems to have an element, but it completely denies what God actually calls us to do. These things are happening. Our churches are invaded. Our world is invaded. Our culture is decayed because we are failing to be the salt and the light. We are failing to stand up. We are failing to say, get those idols out of our world. There are our thoughts for today. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy your daily walk in our Lord.